Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be continuing our AFL 2023 fixture reaction series. And in today's video we are going to be reacting to West Coast 2023 AFL fixture. So let's just go ahead and hop right into things. Alright, so this will be interesting to see whether this is going to be the fixture that could potentially make the West Coast Eagles avoid the bottom four, which for them would definitely be a great achievement and a great finish if they could do that in 2023. Let's see if this is going to be the fixture. Also, after this video, just one more fixture reaction to go before the end of the series as well. And we're going to hop straight into things. Round 1, North Melbourne versus West Coast at Marvel. And again, quite an evenly weighted game here. I'd say North Melbourne are the pick. They are the better side than West Coast at Marvel. But I still feel like some will be low scoring, scrappy, but probably making for not bad viewing if you're a general footy fan. I feel like this one probably going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a high-class, elite footy game, but I feel like it'll be a close, scrappy contest. I feel like North will get the job done, but I wouldn't rule West Coast out of it. And talking about not ruling teams out, I would not rule out West Coast in round 2 either versus the Giants. In Perth, I feel like they are a very good chance to go ahead and start 2-0. I feel like I reckon they'll start 1-1, but I feel like they can start 2-0 with North Melbourne and the Giants in the first couple of weeks. I feel like that does give them a bit of a springboard to start the year, a bit of a jump skip against those other bottom 4 teams. I reckon that'll really give them a good chance to really try and definitely avoid the bottom 2. Is definitely what West Coast would want to be doing, and I feel like with the 2-0 start, that's got them on the right track. Round 3 is the Derby versus the Dockers. That's going to be a lot more tougher though. The Dockers, great side as we know, will definitely be in that hunt for top 8 and top 4 again. And I feel like, yeah, this one's going to be really tough. And again, round 4, same situation, West Coast versus Melbourne. That's going to be a tough game too. Melbourne really good and decent in Perth too. So round 5, of course, gather round, magic rounds, whatever you want to call it. Although the name is gather rounds. Of course, the Adelaide Oval, Geelong versus West Coast of the Adelaide Oval. And sadly for the Eagles, they're not great at the Adelaide Oval at all. I mean, most teams aren't the best at the Adelaide Oval because they don't play there. And neutral grounds can make some contests more interesting than others. However, I just feel like this one will be, could be a little bit better for the Eagles considering they've got the Cats away from Cardinia Park. But again, though, I feel like this is going to be really, really tough game for the Eagles and they probably will end up getting smashed. And round 6, 2 weeks in Adelaide for West Coast. Port Adelaide versus West Coast in round 6. So 2 weeks in Adelaide in a row for West Coast. That'll be interesting. Round 7, West Coast versus Carlton at Optus. Prime time Saturday night at Optus. Again, I doubt they'll win it, but they should be able to try and contend. I feel like they should be able to give a couple of teams a good run for their money in Perth and should be able to really have some games where they can just really contest and really put on pressure and make the other teams really have a think about what they're going to do. I reckon West Coast could be a side that could be in with a couple of chances for a couple of upsets at Optus throughout the season. I don't think this will be a game they can upset in, but who knows. Round 8, MCG versus Richmond, that's also going to be really tough. They haven't been the greatest away from home the past couple of years. 2022, they showed a little bit of improvement, I reckon. I reckon that is slowly starting to get away from them now. But yeah, I feel like this game will kind of almost be that bit of effort all undone in this one. Richmond are going to be a great side in 2023. We all know that. And yeah, I reckon they're going to absolutely thump West Coast here. So round 9, they return back to Optus Stadium for a late Friday night game versus Gold Coast. And I feel like they could be a chance in this. Gold Coast in Perth aren't the best of sides. And West Coast aren't too bad at Optus. I feel like this one could be a bit more of an interesting contest than the last time these two sides played at Optus. I reckon West Coast will give Gold Coast a really good run for their money. I feel like Gold Coast will just get over the line in the end by about maybe 15 points, 20 points to kick away at the end. But I feel like West Coast will definitely be in this game for most of it. So round 10 is a chance to pick up an upset win against the Hawks at UTAS. They are probably, I reckon the Hawks are potentially their best at UTAS. They can be their best, they can also be their worst at times down there as well. They've beaten some really good sides down there, and also had some really poor losses at UTAS as well. So I really just feel like it's just down to the day for West Coast as to whether they can pick up the win here or not. We know both these sides are full of younger experience, although West Coast still do have their older midfield. Hawthorn, they've gone into kind of rebuild stage with their younger group. I feel like this one's probably going to be a decent battle. I feel like the Hawks know the conditions down there better, but I feel like the Eagles again will be in this game for 3/4, probably just shy away in the last, allowing the Hawks a decent win. But I think West Coast will show a little bit of improvement in this one, especially considering it's an away from home game. So round 11, they return to Optus Stadium. This is their massive chance here to claim a really big scalp in the West. Another Saturday night game here for West Coast against Essendon at Optus Stadium. And I wouldn't be rating Essendon very highly at Optus. They lost to West Coast last year. So I'd be saying that West Coast are a really good chance to actually win this game. And I'm pretty sure in my early predictions, I did tip them actually as well. So I do think West Coast will be able to win this game, just considering Essendon, it's not an easy ground to play at Optus, especially sometimes for the Bombers. And yeah, I feel like this one should be able to be a West Coast win, I'd say. So round 12 is West Coast versus Collingwood at Optus Stadium. Back-to-back Optus Stadium games for them. One against an easy opponent, you could say, and then one against a really tough opponent. Now, Collingwood at Optus, you don't really know what to expect. That they can be good, they could probably be bad as well. I'd be expecting a win here from Collingwood, though. I'd be expecting them to get a pretty decent win over West Coast. I feel like after having a really good week, they might have a really poor one this one. So round 13 is Adelaide versus West Coast at the Adelaide Oval. And again, like I've said, the Adelaide Crows are actually quite a tough side to beat. The Adelaide Oval, they are super competitive there and can actually be in with a real good upset chance against some of those better teams at the Adelaide Oval. So I'd be expecting this game should be a game they should be able to comfortably win. And yeah, they should be able to get over the Eagles pretty comfortably in that one by about that 30, 40, even looking towards that 50-point margin as well for the Adelaide Crows, just because they're super good at home. And yeah, I highly doubt West Coast will be able to even be a chance at the Adelaide Oval. Round 14 is their bye, and then round 15 is another really tough game against a really good side. The Crows are pretty decent at home. Talk about a team that's really good at home. The Swans of the SCG are a really good side against a couple of teams they do seem to fail, but I'd be doubting that they'd lose to West Coast at home. This should be a really big win here for Sydney. Potentially one of the biggest of the year, I reckon. I reckon West Coast can have a really poor game, and I reckon Sydney should be able to absolutely smash them. Round 16 is West Coast versus St Kilda at Optus Stadium, and I reckon they could be in with a chance here. St Kilda in Perth aren't the best of sides. I reckon West Coast will put up a really good fight in this one. Then they play the Lions at the Gabba. That's a really tough task before then playing the Tigers at Optus, which again is quite a tough task. The Tigers going to be a great side this year, and yeah, I couldn't see the Tigers losing to the Eagles. So then we move on to the next game, Carlton versus West Coast at Marvel, and again, wouldn't be expecting the Blues to lose to the Eagles. I feel like they should be able to win this comfortably, but now they get to a couple of games here. Their last few, actually, they don't have a bad run home. Couple of tough teams, couple of tough games, but starting off here with a pretty decent one, West Coast versus North at Optus. I'd be really surprised to see the West Coast Eagles lose this game. Their form at Optus is not too bad. They're not too bad at Optus. When they have a tougher team there, they seem to fail. But when they have a lower ranked team, they really do take it up to them and really do put on a decent showing, winning by a small margin in what is a pretty good game normally against these lower sides in Perth. I think they should be able to comfortably put away North Melbourne and should be able to win by about 20 points. And then they go to their next tough task, which is against a lower ranked team. However, away from home at Marvel, which is going to be tough. Essendon versus West Coast at Marvel. Now, I reckon West Coast should be able to give a lot to Essendon in this game. I reckon Essendon will just get over the line. But I think West Coast should be super competitive. So, now go the second derby between the Eagles and the Dockers. Again, would be expecting quite a similar result as the first one, a decent 3-0 win. But again, who knows? And then the last couple of rounds are toughies. Western Bulldogs versus West Coast Marvel. Again, the Doggies are a really good side at Marvel, so it will be really tough to beat them there. Alright, so again, Dogs should be a very tough task. And then West Coast versus Adelaide at Optus Stadium, the final game. I reckon this one could be quite a 50-50 contest. And yeah, I feel like the Crows will get it done though. So we do know that West Coast did have actually quite a poor year last year as well in terms of injuries. So you'd be hoping that if you're an Eagles fan, you'd be hoping to have a better year in terms of injury and injury-wise. Got lots of young talents to go ahead and unleash though, which can be a step backwards to go a couple of steps forward. They've taken some really nice draft picks as well, and in my opinion, splitting that pick too into a couple of like mid-range first-round draft picks, I feel like was probably not a bad idea in the end. They ended up getting 2 really good players for essentially the price of 1 draft pick, which would have been a Victorian at that level anyway, which may have wanted to go back home. So I feel like West Coast, that's probably smart recruiting more than anything. So I feel like they are kind of may go that step backwards to go those couple of steps forward. I feel like this year they should be able to avoid the bottom 2 with not necessarily ease, but I feel like surely with this decent start they should be able to do it, and then they should be able to pick up a couple of later wins in the season and maybe an upset or 2, and then that should have them right in the mix for that lower bottom 4 spot. For that higher bottom 4 spot, for example 15 or even outside that bottom 4 at your 14th or your 13th. So there we go. Teams they play twice before we finish as well. Adelaide, Carlton, Essendon, Fremantle, North Melbourne, Richmond. Having a couple of those teams for twice is a pretty good result, especially North Melbourne. And Essendon as well isn't too bad. And Adelaide might not be too bad either. But yeah, other than that, it is pretty tough, and I feel like Adelaide wouldn't be that easy. I definitely feel like though having North twice for the Eagles could be pretty decent, and as well as having a couple of easier teams at Optus would definitely help too. So that's going to wrap us up. I feel like they should be able to avoid the bottom of the ladder, but I feel like they probably will still make the bottom 4, probably collect a couple of wins, like maybe 4 or 5, I reckon, in 2023. But yeah, I reckon they should be able to avoid that bottom and probably look at that 15th, 14th spot. But anyway, though, feel free to let me know where you think West Coast will be. I feel like not too bad of a fixture, especially those first 2 games. I feel like how they start those first 2 games is really going to have a big say on their season. Thank you guys. It was so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Sending you guys another video on the channel. Thank you guys. It was so much. Bye everyone. Flaming Footy out.